Chris Griffith is the chief executive of Kumba Iron Ore in South Africa, the world's fourth largest iron ore mining company. Kumba is 60% owned by the global mining and resource company Anglo American, where Chris is also an executive director. Kumba operates across several locations in South Africa, but the bulk of their iron ore production comes from the Sishen mine, located in South Africa's Northern Cape province. Sishen is one of the largest open-pit mines in the world. Operating around the clock, this mine alone has more than 8,000 full-time employees and contractors. It's a tough, competitive and hazardous industry, yet in 2010, Kumba was voted one of South Africa's top 10 companies to work for, reaching number 6 overall and number 1 in mining. In the same year, Chris was also voted South Africa's Businessman of the Year, with Kumba rated as the best performer in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange Social Responsibility Index. Financially, there have also been some impressive results since Chris began, with the revenues of Kumba rising from 21.4 billion rand in 2008 to over 48.6 billion in 2011. These accomplishments indicate a lot going on behind the scenes at Kumba. I travelled with Chris to Sishen Mine to find out more about his organisation and how he and they are making a difference.
David, we have a mission in our company that I lead. That mission is called People Making a Difference in a Company Making a Difference. So way before I met you and way before I'd heard your concept of making a difference, this was the essence of our company. And we believe it takes each individual collectively to make their difference so that the company can also make a big difference. We started when this company was formed by giving the communities a shareholding in the company. So there's a 3% shareholding in the communities. So we have 5 communities that benefit. Originally it was anticipated it would take 10 years to pay off their loan. So we had a small trickle dividend that went out on an annual basis, and the majority of their dividend went back to pay their loan. So after 4 years, they'd already paid off their loan.
Wow,
so at that point in time, the value that they owned in the company was about 5 billion rand. That value in the company now is worth almost 8 or 9 billion rand. They can't sell those shares because the shares that they hold in the company, they get the dividends for. Now, last year alone, the community got over 500 million rand of dividends from the company.
That must make a huge difference to those communities. What's important to remember is that 50 years ago, out in Sishen, there was absolutely nothing. It was the bush. 50 years later, there are several thriving communities of Kumba employees and their families, including the main settlement, Katu. The serious investment Kumba puts into these communities is used to improve infrastructure, facilities and services, and there's a culture within the company that employees all contribute in some way to the welfare of the community in which they live. But what's in it for the employees themselves?
I was fascinated in this one to read all about Envision. Can you tell me about that?
That's been, we think, the most successful employee share scheme in the country, where each employee, if you've been with us for 5 years, you would have either got a multiple of between 3 or 5 times your annual salary. So the benefit over 5 years, excluding all the dividends that you've received in those 5 years, which in this case was 75,000 rand, was the dividends that each employee would have got over those 5 years. And as a result of this, the payout, the capital appreciation period over the 5 years meant that people, if you've been with us for 5 years, would have got 500,000 rand.
Chris, I don't think that's probably unbeatable in the world, not just in South Africa. I mean, there can't be any employee participation schemes, I think, that would come close to that, are there? Are you aware of any?
I'm not aware of any the rest of the world we don't track, clearly, but not in South Africa. This has been the most successful employee share scheme to date.
It had the potential to really change people's lives, didn't it?
Yeah, it had the potential to change people's lives, but it could have very negatively affected the company.
One way or the other.
Yeah, so we could have had sort of mass resignation of people that wanted to take their money and start new businesses. So it was very important for us that we did financial fitness training. So we did the financial fitness training in actually 3 tranches during the year. So, and that was really just to help people with their choices, because it is their choice and they can use their money for whatever they like. But this was a great opportunity for people, firstly, to get out of debt, secondly, to invest in housing, and thirdly, to invest in children education.
So here we have a company who invests in their employees and the communities in which they live on an unprecedented scale. Sishen Mine is a staggeringly large operation, and under Chris, profitability has risen from 13.5 billion rand in 2008 to over 32 billion rand in 2011. But for Chris, the investment in community and increased profits are of course inextricably linked.
This is twofold. Number one, it is about first and foremost just making a difference in the community and making sure the experience of the mine is a positive experience. But secondly, if the community are aligned with the mine, this is a good business decision. They support you, they support the people that are employed on the mine, and so it really is then a win-win situation between the communities and the company.
I cannot get over the size and scale of the place. It is absolutely vast. I had no idea that this was what a mine looked like, felt like. I can't get over the size of the equipment. I can't get over how busy it all is, how efficient and smooth running it is. And I think the thing more than anything else that's impressed me is the commitment to safety and standards and professionalism in absolutely everything I've seen so far. Here is the safety performance for the month to date and the year to date. LTI, what does that stand for, Chris?
Lost time injury.
Lost time injuries. Everywhere you go around this site, safety is just so heavily featured everywhere you go.
I say to myself continually, well, what is the difference I can make? And the difference I can make is actually lead people so that this becomes a pervasive culture in the organization. So what is it that I need to do so that everyone feels such a profound sense of making a safety difference, making a difference, caring for themselves, for their colleagues, caring for the company, caring for the community, respecting themselves, respecting the environment, respecting the communities around us. And it takes all of that, I think, to make a difference. And something I feel very passionately about is what do I do to free up people? How do I allow people in the organization to have the kind of resources that is required to do that? So some of it requires substantial amounts of money from the company. Some of it requires us to put the right people in place so that there's people working in the community.
Most people who work in the mine will have relatives or dependents who also live in the community and therefore also need to have a meaningful and fulfilling career. Part of Kumba's community initiatives include microfinance and mentoring support to launch entrepreneurial startup businesses as diverse as organic farming to beekeeping for honey to plumbing services. Clearly, this not only provides employment and a meaningful life to the non-mining members of the community, but equally importantly, the services and products that they provide further enhance the quality of the lives of all members of the community. The increasing wealth generated has subsequently attracted large national businesses to bring products and services to Sishen that would normally only ever be found hundreds of kilometers away in the major towns and cities. This in turn has acted as a magnet for management talent who would otherwise never have contemplated moving to somewhere so remote. One of the community projects which Kumba has developed and funded is the UGM Wellness Clinic, a facility primarily designed to test and treat employees and their families who are affected by the HIV virus. This clinic is run by one of the most passionate social entrepreneurs you could ever wish to meet.
The UGM Wellness Clinic was started in 2007. It's a first antiretroviral site in Katu in the Kumba region. Over the years, our main focus was HIV and wellness screening, but mainly focused on HIV testing and treatment. We tested more than 50,000 people since we started.
50,000
Yes.
people since you started.
And also, since the clinic was opened, the Kumba district's incidence on HIV new infections reduced by 2%. 100%. Because we focus a lot of information, education, we have outreach programs, sex education, wellness, general hygiene, teenage pregnancies, alcohol and drug abuse. I've got a full-time social worker, full-time pharmacist, sessional doctor.
When Anglo American was the first company ever to offer antiretrovirals to HIV-positive employees. And the government at the time were very annoyed with Anglo American because they were struggling to acknowledge, I think, first of all, that this needed to be done. So Anglo American took the initiative and said, we have to do this. Then we said, okay, we're going to do this for our own employees and their families. Then when we started doing that, then we said, well, but what about our contractors? And then what about the communities? And clearly this is government's work, and we're not trying to take over the work government is doing, but often they just needed the ability, just a program to do it, facilities, people that knew how to do this stuff. And then we partnered with them, and that's why this was such an amazing partnership. It's made out of a whole lot of containers. They put this up in 4 months. 4 months later, this thing was running.
Over 4 years, you've screened 50,000 people.
Yes.
And in this community, HIV has gone down, whereas nationally it's gone up. So this is and it's very scalable.
It's very scalable.
How does it make you feel knowing the impact that you've had?
This is my baby, so no, it is, and we're just looking in to see how we can expand and we can contribute more. It's proud, but I can't do it without the team.
Yeah, so just briefly on the left-hand side, we see this is what we call sonstraaltjie, which is an Afrikaans word for sunbeam. Probably about between 17 and 20% of our employees on the mine are women, with a number of those in core skills. That'll be operators, drill operators, truck operators, shovel operators, and those kind of people that work shifts need a place to leave their children. A lot of these are single moms that are working, young single moms. So what we've set up here is a 24-hour creche facility. So, you'd probably say, well, you should have that kind of thing available anywhere. So women that are working shift can actually bring their children, leave them here under the highest supervision, and then go to work with a peace of mind that I can go do my job, work shifts, and my children are going to be well looked after. This has been set up by the mine. The mine paid the capital fee, and the parents pay a fee for their children to come to this facility. We think that that's always important, that parents take ownership, that they believe in the value of the facilities, and they only get that if they pay for it. And that over a period of time, we will extricate ourselves from being involved here, and this will become a normal business venture that we will set up, fund, help get this thing running, and then we would pull out.
You've given an opportunity for women to work who, if you hadn't set up this facility, wouldn't be able to work. And many of them are single mums, so they wouldn't have been able to support their families.
They either wouldn't have been able to work, or they would have had to have accepted the negative social impacts of leaving their children with either family or friends or neighbours or whatever.
So what was that housing estate we've just gone past, Chris?
What we've just been through now is a housing estate over 3 different phases that we've built called Lakashona housing. The locals refer to it as Smarty Town because of the different colours of the houses. We built 1,000 houses over the last few years for our employees. So we encourage home ownership. We provide a subsidy, a home subsidy scheme, and we also provide a system that helps people get loans from the bank, get funding, and are able to use the subsidy that the company gives them. Either that, or as we spoke about a bit earlier with our Envision scheme, so there was this big cash payout, they're able to use that to then pay off their house or put a substantial down payment on their house.
Kumba is dedicated to keeping employees healthy and has created a world-class occupational health facility providing regular health assessments, advice and treatment. Happy, healthy employees are always far more productive, as Sission's results clearly testify.
Each one of us, I think, has a desire to contribute, has a desire to feel recognized and appreciated. So I feel a profound sense of contribution when I know that I'm improving the company through my leadership. And I think if people see at the top part of the business, people really proud of what they're doing and proud of the difference that they're making, I think that becomes pervasive across the organization. And so, I mean, that's, I think, what we experience today. When you hear people at the clinic talking about the amount of people whose lives they've changed, if we have a look at the education programs that we've had, and people talk with such deep passion for the work that they're doing, and their eyes light up when they talk about this. And if you look at the community members that have been touched, that have been employed for the first time in their lives, or can bring something home to their families, or can create food for the community. If you look at that achievement, it's very difficult not to feel proud. It's very difficult not to feel a sense of wonderful accomplishment, and and it sort of emboldens one to try more things. We look to each individual in some way to make a difference. I mean, if you take that mentality, if you have that culture in absolutely everything you do, and you apply that culture to your business practices, means that you can continually improve your business. If you apply that to your work practices, you can make them safer every day. So I think it is about the culture in the organization that we've tried to establish, and I think we've done well so far, and I think it sets up a platform to still do more in the future.
The company has created a model of consciousness. They've created health, wealth, and happiness for 30,000 employees and the community in which they serve and have created. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. It's a wonderful company. This is a model which could be cloned and replicated all around the world.